All right, here we go. Boston Celtics schedule is out. Take a look at the top five must-see games here. Sixers, of course. Jaylen Brown, hello, darkness, my old friend. I miss you so much. Then the Knicks, the champs. Wemby, the Heat, the Thunder. So some of these top games here for the Celtics. Who else should we get to break this down than the man, the myth, the legend, Sean Grande, who joins us live from the Basketball Hall of Fame. We want to talk to him about the schedule. JB, Doc Rivers going in to the Hall of Fame. Let's bring him on. Sean Grande, good to see you again, my friend. We are not worthy. How are you, sir?
Great to see you guys, especially, I try to clean up nice, always for the show, but for Hall of Fame, too.
You looking good, brother. You looking good. Let's start there with Doc, and then we'll get into the schedule you saw there with the full screen. You have any Doc stories you can share that are family friendly for our program, sir?
I think the family friendly ones are harder to find, right? Because for the 9 years he was here, Doc and I were the only two guys that lived downtown. So there were a lot of rides from Hampton back downtown after games that maybe didn't always go as well as you wanted them to. So a lot of guys got traded over the years on those rides. Let's say that downtown, but. This weekend, as everybody celebrates him and the basketball and the coaching, I think the thing that really has hit home with me now, especially at this point in my life, is the years he was here when his kids were young and the dedication involved in, for example, Austin, who later played the NBA. We'd be out on the West Coast, and the team would go from Portland to Los Angeles, and Doc Rivers would get on a private plane and fly 3,000 miles to Orlando to watch his son play in a high school basketball game, which is, as I always said, is this extraordinary act of physical, emotional discipline and a pretty ordinary act of fatherhood. And it always inspired me the way he was, speaking of family friendly, about his family and mixing it with this unbelievably challenging job he has had basically nonstop for 27 years.
What do you think Doc's legacy is as a Celtic in Boston, Grande?
It's interesting because he's forever tied to that team, and what I think the later legacy of Doc Rivers will be is bringing those guys back together, because 3 years ago, the idea of Ray Allen, Kevin Garnett, and Paul Pierce all being in the same place wasn't a no-brainer. That wasn't easy to do, and yet tomorrow night at the Hall of Fame, those three guys are going to be inducting him together. I think Doc's legacy, and it has to do with his arrival in Boston, not the championship in 2008, but coming here in 2004. Think about him taking over Orlando in '99, going to the Clippers. He was the perfect guy at the perfect time in so many of these places. Orlando needed a new coach. They had a veteran team, and he cobbled that team together, a makeshift crew, and got him very near the playoffs in his first year. He comes to Boston when the Celtics didn't just need a coach. They needed a marquee coach, because it's hard to fathom now if you're under the age of 30 or 35, but the 90s, early 2000s Celtics, they were off the grid in this two-pronged NBA, which you have the NBC, fancy, NBA, ESPN, ABC, NBA, and then the Tuesday Night League Pass NBA. And the Celtics were relegated. And Doc Rivers was one of the first things that made them relevant again, even before the arrival of Ray Allen and Kevin Garnett.
All right, Sean, let's do a little schedule talk. Have you told the family that you're working on Christmas Day this year? And what do you think about the Celtics being the first game on is that a Tuesday or Wednesday at 3 o'clock? What's up with that?
I was just thrilled, with my baseball heart, as you guys know. I was just thrilled that there was no game the next day because, as you know, you got to protect those opening day games for rain, right? So it's really important that you didn't have that second game. That obviously was bizarre to have the Tuesday 3 o'clock game. I think what struck me is what struck everybody. The first thing we all did, right, was look for the Jaylen Brown return game. And I think it has hit me, as it should have hit all of us by now, that we all had drama in our lives, right? At some point we had a bad breakup or something we couldn't get over, and we kept talking about it and talking about it. Eventually we realized nobody else cared. And I think when the schedule came out yesterday, and it's a Thursday night mid-season game on Amazon, that maybe the Jaylen Brown Boston soap opera isn't as interesting to the rest of the league as it may be to us. So that was the first thing I saw. The second thing was the insane November road schedule, which I haven't finished the research yet, but that seems to be a franchise record, 12 road games in a single month. And clearly, if you look at it on paper, it was clearly done without a map. when you look at the cities that are connected to each other. So it's going to be a tough start.
So wait, Grande, you mean all those times I called you and I opened up to you like you were Barbara Walters about my problems? You didn't really care, Grande?
You were hoping we'd get over it, and that one day we're just going to put that conversation on Amazon and order, a new pair of pants and something for the kitchen, and you're good.
Go ahead, Double M. Go ahead.
Which game, though, I mean, because you look at all the games, is there a game that stands out to you? Is it that first Sixers game? Which game are you looking forward to the most?
Well, it's funny because what national TV did do was gobble up. I did take note of this. There are 14 games against the Knicks, the Sixers, the Lakers, the Thunder, and the Timberwolves. And all 14 of those games are on national TV. But the one that didn't make the list that you guys put up that particularly appeals to me, and maybe people will romanticize it a little more when they see him inducting Doc Rivers tomorrow, is that a few years ago we all got to be at TD Garden when Kevin Garnett's number went up in Boston. But we're going to be there for a Sunday night NBC game in March when Kevin Garnett's number finally gets retired in Minnesota. And this is a long time coming. The Celtics actually waited for a couple of years to let Minnesota do it first. But things weren't great between Garnett and the Timberwolves for a while. So that finally got done, and it's really cool that they worked it out so that the Celtics can be there on that night. So in addition to the fact that Minnesota is a really fun team to watch, and they're going to be one of the real conversation stirrers of the year, that to me is a personal highlighted schedule.
And a special place for you. You spent time in Minnesota, right, before the Celtics?
The 3 years I spent with Kevin Garnett in Minnesota doing the TV there, and his number will just be the second one retired in Minnesota. The other one is the number 2 that belonged to Malik Sealy, which they retired after he was killed in a drunk driving accident when I was there in 2000.
Wow.
And what people don't realize is that Kevin Garnett wore the number 21 because when he was in high school, the player he most admired was a slinky forward from St. John's named Malik Sealy.
Wow.
That's why he wore the number 21, and it's why he later wore number 2 in Brooklyn. So those will be the only 2 numbers at the top of Target Center come March.
Well, full circle for you.
Wow.
So listen, I think the Celtics are going to be good without Jaylen Brown, and we'll see with the Paul George thing. I think he's here. I know there's still talks about maybe they could move on from him, but the back-to-backs, that's what I'm looking at this year. Back-to-back games. I believe there's 13 of them. Are they going to be able to play back-to-back games? How are they going to manage these guys this year?
It's not just Paul George or Mitchell Robinson, right? How many times are you putting Tatum into a back-to-back situation in this first full year back? And what I noted about the back-to-backs is that some of the really high-profile games, some of these home games on national TV against San Antonio and Golden State, those are back-to-backs. And how Joe would it be to not play Jason Tatum in the Jaylen Brown game in Boston, because that is the second night of a back-to-back when the Celtics play that Amazon Prime game against Jaylen Brown in January. So I think that the back-to-backs and how Joe manages those are an interesting topic. How he manages that brutal November with all of the road games and the crazy back and forth around the country with this team when you don't really know, between Tatum, Robinson, and Paul George, 3 high-level, high-minute rotation players, you don't know how durable they are going to be, particularly at the start of the year. That's the most fascinating thing about it.
Grande, all of us have worked in sports for a long time, and it takes a lot to shock any of us with anything that happens in terms of trades or releases or whatevs. But in the end, I still just can't get used to seeing Jaylen Brown with the 76ers logo behind him. And furthermore, I still can't get over the fact that they traded him there. Not that they traded him, but like there? How are you sitting with it now that we've had some time, we've seen him talk and heard him talk? And also, how do you think this is going to play out over the years now with him on that team going against Tatum and the good guys?
Not only playing 4 times a year in the regular season, the 2 preseason games this year, how inevitable does it feel that there's going to be a playoff series, right?
Yeah.
At some point in the next couple of years, given where these 2 teams are in the Eastern Conference, it feels like that is unavoidable. So what the legacy is, remember when Ray Allen, and that was a totally different story. When Ray Allen left, he left of his own volition to go and play for the rival, and there was bad blood about that. Obviously, Jaylen Brown had nothing to do with the choice to land in Philadelphia. But how do all those playoff series and these games the next few years, the circumstance in general, how does it play out for him? That, I think, is going to determine what the legacy is going to be of this deal, as we look at it years down the road. I keep thinking about how 3 years ago, there's no way the Milwaukee Bucks thought Drew Holiday was going to end up in Boston when they traded him to Portland. When the Celtics made this deal, you know it was going to be hard enough anyway to swallow the Philadelphia thing. I don't think Brad Stevens thought that LeBron James and Anthony Simons, for a combined $10 million between them, would end up on that team in Philadelphia too, which makes it even more dramatic and a fascinating situation because it makes the Sixers extremely dangerous on paper. And then you have the subplot of Jaylen Brown going from being the number one guy here last year to whatever he's going to be on a Philadelphia team with LeBron James and Maxey and Edgecombe and on down the line.
As you mentioned, Grande, it makes them extraordinarily dangerous on paper, but I want you to put your Grande Damas hat on here. Is it going to work? Because I do think that's a question. Will it work?
I think that I tend to be, I don't know if I'm in the minority or not, because I no longer can use social media to figure out what is going on anymore because it's gotten so insane to the point where I finally realized 10 years later, guys, Kyrie Irving was right when he said the internet is not real. He was ahead of the curve when he said that. I don't get anymore because I've seen podcast guys in the last couple of weeks that were titled, "Is Paul George a better fit for the Celtics than Jaylen Brown?" And I texted it around to a few people saying, I've never seen the 12 stages of grief be traversed this quickly by people. So I'm not sure where people stand anymore on this whole thing. But while there are a lot of things that could go wrong in Philadelphia, I tend to think that it won't. I think that Joel Embiid, how many games is he going to play? And I think they might be better off in some ways when they don't have him, when they can really run. Again, if you're looking at a playoff series and the one basketball, that to me is more challenging than managing an 82-game schedule when you can sit Joel Embiid one night. You're going to sit LeBron in a back-to-back. Jaylen may not play every game as he gets to age 30. So I think the Sixers are certainly a much more dangerous regular season team than I think they're getting credit for.
All right, Grande, final minute. Where do you put the Red Sox streak and what they've done and where they're at now?
Yeah.
How do you put it into Celtics terms or maybe other streaks you've seen?
Well, my personal favorite part is that they went to Canada where the exchange rate is about 1.3 and they got 4 outs in exchange for that. Was my favorite part of the weekend. I hope people have really been able to enjoy this ride, even with the bumps, right? I know Lucy's not here, so I've got to be that. I guess I'm filling that spot, right, about winning the World Series and keeping the optimism. And the fact that they lost 5 games in a row with the tying run at the plate, tying run on second, tying run on third, tying run at the plate, tying run at the plate. And there was no way, as we said when we had these conversations in June, my baseball brain would not accept that the Red Sox were going to lose this many games with the pitching being this good. Right. And eventually, the pitching, it's like going to the dentist chair with Novocaine, right? Eventually, that pitching is going to work, and it's going to knock you out, and it's going to put them in the shape that they have been in. And to me, my favorite part of the year and the streak and all of it is watching Durbin, who easily could have gone south with the start he had in a very difficult media market, replacing Bregman, correct his swing, and sort of the natural way he plays. That sort of dirt dog, I don't care which way my pinky is pointing, that eventually was going to win out. And that to me he's almost been the signature of what this season has been. It's been a treat to watch.
Well, Grande, we know you're at the Hall of Fame for Doc, but you're a Hall of Famer here on Boston's Entered the Chat, sir. We always appreciate having you.
See you, Sean.
You guys going to come down for you're going to be at my after party when you put me in here?
Yes.
Right. You're on the list.
Thanks, Sean.
Thanks, Grande. I'd actually apologize to him in advance because I'd be wasted at his celebration.
We'd go to Mohegan for and then we'd take the ride, or Foxwoods, or whatever that went out there.
I don't know if people know this. Grande is sneaky the best baseball guy in the media in this town.
He can talk everything.
Well, he can talk everything. He called Red Sox games in 2013
I didn't know that.
on the radio. He is elite on baseball.
He's elite.
He is elite on everything.
He's elite, but he really wants to talk baseball.
He does. He legitimately loves the sport.
He likes wrestling too?
Oh, yeah.
What?
MMA. He was calling Bellator games.
He does fights?
He's the best.
I'm a fight fan.
He's the best.
No. Yep. I love that dude, man. Yeah. Hey, still to come here on Boston's Enter the Chat. It's Friday, so we got to do last call. We got to get it all off our chest for the weekend and leave you with that. So we do that next right here on Boston's Enter the Chat, and then we'll come back Monday and we'll do it again. But Friday's last call next, right here on Boston's Enter the Chat.